Hare Krishna, welcome to this episode of Bhagavad-gītā. Today we will be looking at three verses, chapter 8, texts 11, 12 and 13. Alright, we will say our Mangalacharan prayers and then we will begin. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya, चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवम् श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वतीदेवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। So today we will be covering three verses, chapter 8, texts 11, 12 and 13. यदक्षरं वेद-विदो वदन्ति विśanti यतयो vīta-rāgāḥ यदिcchanto brahmacaryaṁ caranti तत्ते पदं saṅgraheṇa pravakṣye। Yat, that which, akṣaraṁ, syllable om, veda-vido, persons conversant with the Vedas, vadanti, say, viśanti, enter, yat, in which, yatayo, great sages, vīta-rāgāḥ, in the renounced order of life, yat, that which, icchanto, desiring, brahmacaryaṁ, celibacy, caranti, practice, tat, that, te, unto you, padaṁ, situation, saṅgraheṇa, in summary, pravakṣye, I shall explain. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: persons who are learned in the Vedas, who utter omkāra and who are great sages in the renounced order, enter into Brahman. Desiring such perfection, one practices celibacy. I shall now briefly explain to you this process by which one may attain salvation. Purport: Lord Sri Krishna has recommended to Arjuna the practice of Shatchakra Yoga, in which one places the air of life between the eyebrows. Taking it for granted that Arjuna might not know how to practice Shatchakra Yoga, the Lord explains the process in the following verses. The Lord says that Brahman, although one without a second, has various manifestations and features. Especially for the impersonalist, the akṣara or omkāra, the syllable om, is identical with Brahman. Krishna here explains the impersonal Brahman in which the renounced order of sages enter. Before we proceed further, please share it with others in the group so that others can join in. Today we started the class a little late, so please inform them. Thank you very much. So continuing on, in the Vedic system of knowledge, students from the very beginning are taught to vibrate Om and learn of the ultimate impersonal Brahman by living with the spiritual master in complete celibacy. In this way, they realize two of Brahman's features. This practice is very essential for the student's advancement in spiritual life. But at the moment, such brahmachari or unmarried celibate life is not at all possible. The social construction of the world has changed so much that there is no possibility of one's practicing celibacy from the beginning of student life. Throughout the world, there are many institutions for different departments of knowledge, but there is no recognized institution where students can be educated in the brahmachari principles. Unless one practices celibacy, advancement in spiritual life is very difficult. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya has announced, according to the scriptural injunctions for this age of Kali, that in this age no process of realizing the Supreme is possible except the chanting of the holy names of Lord Krishna, which is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Now, I'm seeing in the comment section, all Matajis are here, many Matajis are here. Where are the Prabhus? Here the topic is about brahmachari. Where are all the bhaktas? Please ask them to come. What are they doing? Okay, so this is the first verse of today. Many important points to be covered. We'll go to the second verse and third verse and try to study all of it together. Chapter 8, text 12. sarva-dvārāṇi saṁyamya mano hṛdi nirudhya ca mūrdhny ādhāyātmanaḥ prāṇam āsthito yoga-dhāraṇām. Sarva-dvārāṇi, all the doors of the body. Saṁyamya, controlling. Manah, the mind. Hṛdi, in the heart. Nirudhya, confining. Cha, also. Mūrdhny, on the head. Ādhāya, fixing. Atmanaḥ, of the soul. Prāṇam, the life air. Āsthito, situated in. Yoga-dhāraṇām, the yogic situation. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The yogic situation is that of detachment from all sensual engagements, closing all the doors of the senses and fixing the mind on the heart and the life air at the top of the head. One establishes himself in yoga. Purport. To practice yoga as suggested here, one first has to close the doors of all sense enjoyment. This practice is called pratyahara, or withdrawing the senses from the sense objects. The sense organs for acquiring knowledge, the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and touch, should be fully controlled and should not be allowed to engage in self-gratification. In this way, the mind focuses on the supersoul in the heart, and the life force is raised to the top of the head. In the 6th chapter, this process is described in detail. But as mentioned before, this practice is not practical in this age. The best process is Krishna consciousness. If one is always able to fix his mind on Krishna in devotional service, it is very easy for him to remain in an undisturbed transcendental trance or in samadhi. Text 13 of the 8th chapter. Om akṣaraṁ brahma vyaharan ma manusmaran yah prayatitya jandeham sayati paramam gatim. Om, the combination of letters Om, omkāra. Iti, thus. Eka akṣaraṁ, the one syllable. Brahma, absolute. Vyaharan, vibrating. Mam, me, Krishna. Anusmaran, remembering. Yah, one who. Prayati, leaves. Tyajan, quitting. Deham, this body. Sah, he. Yati, achieves. Paramam, the supreme. Gatim, destination. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. After being situated in this yoga practice and vibrating the sacred syllable Om, the supreme combination of letters, if one thinks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and quits his body, he will certainly reach the spiritual planets. Purport. It is clearly stated here that Om, Brahman, and Lord Krishna are not different. The impersonal sound of Krishna is Om, but the sound Hare Krishna contains Om. The chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is clearly recommended for this age. So if one quits his body at the end of life chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. He certainly reaches one of the spiritual planets according to the mode of his practice. The devotees of Krishna enter the Krishna planet, Goloka Vrindavan. For the personalists, there are also innumerable other planets known as Vaikuntha planets in the spiritual sky, whereas the impersonalists remain in the Brahma Jyoti. Now, why did I choose all three of these verses and not just one of these verses? So there's a reason. So, in the 8th chapter, 9th verse, we have studied the 8 different aspects of Krishna, right? So this is how we can understand Krishna all rounded. Every aspect of Krishna we can understand. So, in fact, of course, this verse can have even more explanation, but we kind of elaborately understood this verse, but still there can be more explanation actually, like especially sarvasya dhātaram, there can be more explanation for that. But anyway, the form of Krishna is clearly explained here, and his position and what is his situation is very nicely explained in this verse. So having explained that, next verse, in the 10th verse, Krishna says that we have studied this verse on the last Sunday. Prayana kale manasachalena bhaktya yukto yoga balena chaiva bhrugor madhye pranam aveshya samyak satam param purushamapaiti divyam. So one who at the time of death fixes his life hair between the eyebrows and by the strength of yoga with an undeviated mind engages himself in remembering the Supreme Lord in full devotion will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So basically, we have to remember Krishna at the time of death. By the strength of yoga, it is said here, which can be Bhakti Yoga or Hatha Yoga, Shat Chakra Yoga. But in Kali Yuga, the Bhakti Yoga, which begins from Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, that is the most practical version of yoga that we can practice in Kali Yuga. And it is also at the same time sublime. It is not that, we cannot do the extensive practices, so therefore we will start with something easier. No, it's not just that. It is not only easier but also more effective, because it taps on the natural inclination or tendency of the soul. Now this jnana and hatha yoga, and even karma, they are actually filled with unconstitutional activity with a mixture of constitutional temperament. For example, karma yoga, jnana yoga and hatha yoga, what are they? Karma means activity. Karma yoga means activity but for the satisfaction of Krishna. So suppose I'm like, even for example, demigod worship, that is also karma yoga, because we are at least in the yajnic process. We are accepting the supreme authority of the Vedas and acting according to the direction of the Vedas, which is obedience to Krishna indirectly. Although the direct obedience to Krishna means sarva-dharmān parityajya māmekam sharanam vraja. For those who cannot do that, they are at least advised to follow the Vedic principle of either worshipping demigods or some dāna, vrata, tapa. All these processes are recommended in the Vedas, and especially the Karmakanda section deals with many sacrifices and moral pious activities which will lead us to higher existence in the next life. So that is Karmakanda. But at least it is in connection with Krishna, because we're doing it, although we are interested in material results like heavenly life and all that, at least the path taken is of obedience to the Supreme Lord, the Vedic path. There is also Karma Yoga, which is devotional service. Like if I am engaged in working outside, then I can offer the results to Krishna, like offer some of the money that I earn to Krishna, or offer some of my talents, not or, and offer some of my talents, whatever I'm working. Suppose I'm good at, say, writing. So let me write for Krishna something, either Krishna's articles or drafting some kinds of, we have to always, draft letters and some documents and all that, do that. Or, if I'm more philosophically trained, then I can write articles for, the magazine. So in this way, um, engagement. So everything, even if I'm an artist, then I can paint Krishna's pictures and paintings which will convey a spiritual message of the Bhagavad-gītā based on those concepts. So I can always engage myself in Krishna's service. Of course, if I do it for Krishna entirely, it is bhakti yoga. But if I am especially working outside, then I'm dealing with worldly people, and then offering the results to Krishna. So that is karma yoga. So there is karma and there is bhakti mixture. Karma mishra bhakti is the technical word used in this case. Karma mishra bhakti. Mishra means mixture. Some people have the title Mishra, surname Mishra. Mishra actually came from the word that, the concept that there was a mixture of castes. For example, the father is of a Brahman and mother is of a maybe Vaishya or something like that, and they marry. So there is an intercaste mixture. So when people are of such descent, they are called Mishra. That was, how it started. So this word Mishra means mixture. Karma Mishra Bhakti. That means bhakti which is added to the karma. It is not, many times we hear this phrase of that Prabhupada uses, unalloyed devotional service. What is unalloyed devotional service? What is an alloy? Alloy means a mixture of metals. Unalloyed means no mixture, pure. So when bhakti is mixed with karma or jnana or yoga, then it is called Mishra Bhakti. It's alloyed devotional service. Because the desire is not yet pure. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavritam anukulyena krishnanusilanam bhaktiruttama. The highest, the best bhakti, the proper bhakti is that which is not influenced by karma or jnana or even yoga. Just for Krishna's sake. That is anyabhilashita shunyam. That is pure bhakti. Now, if I am not at the stage, then there is Mishra Bhakti, which is recommended. So at least, even if it is Mishra, at least start it. So eventually it will become purified. Shuddha Bhakti. So that is explained in this Srimad Bhagavatam verse. I think you all know this probably. If you do not know, please, you cannot not know this verse. This is very important. अकामः सर्वकामो वा मोक्षकाम उदारधीः तीव्रेण भक्ति योगेन यजेत पुरुषं परम्. A person who has broader intelligence, whether he be full of all material desire, without any material desire, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the Supreme Whole, the Personality of Godhead. So three kinds of people are mentioned here. Akama, Sarvakama, Mokshakama. So who is Akama? Akama means devotees, those who have no kama. That means kama means what? Atmendriya pritivancha taranam kam. Krishnendriya pritivancha dhare premanam. So what is kama and what is prema? Kama means the desire to satisfy one's own senses, sense gratification. That is kama. And Krishna, the desire to satisfy Krishna's senses, that is prema, love. Lust and love. Kama is lust, prema is love. Now, akama means zero self interest. Only Krishna. That is akama. But it is not that he doesn't have any desire. He has desires, unlimited desires to serve Krishna. Anukulyena Krishnanusilanam. Anyabhilashita sunyam. It is never mentioned sarva-bhilashita sunyam. No, anyabhilashita sunyam. Other desires than serving Krishna is zero. So he is called akama. Although he has many desires, he is not called kami. He is akami. Now, sarvakama means complete materialist. He has all kinds of material desires. Sarvakama. Akama, sarvakamo va, mokshakama udaradhi. One who desires liberation, the impersonalist. The one who wants to merge into the Brahman effulgence. Though the one who doesn't want to serve the Supreme Lord. There is no subordination to the Supreme Lord. He just wants to get liberated. then also there is only self-interest. Because he wants to get liberated and he wants to be situated in that. There is no mood of service to Krishna. There is no anukulyana Krishna anushīlanam bhaktiruttama. No. So all these three categories, how can they become perfect? Akama, akama, sarva-kamo va, moksha-kama, udāradhihi, the one who is intelligent, whether he's full of desires or no desire or desiring liberation. Tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. Tivrena means with great force. You see, Tivrena with great force. Tivram. Tivram, I think every Indian language will have this word. Tivram. Tivram means with great intensity. So, Tivrena. With great intensity, one must do Bhakti Yoga. Yajeta Purusham Param. We should worship the Lord. So, it doesn't matter which class we are, Akama, Sarvakama, or Mokshakama. So, this is stated. So, in other words, what is being stated here is that whatever may be our position, without Krishna's sanction, we cannot get perfection whether in our karma or jnana or bhakti or yoga. Dhyanavastita tadgatena manasa pashyantiyam yoginah. So yogis can only, the hatha yogis, they can only get perfection by meditating on the super soul in the heart. And here, yad akṣaraṁ veda-vido vadanti. Veda-vidaha means the persons who are conversant with Vedas, especially the impersonalists. They are into always Vedas and Vedanta study. But they don't understand the Vedanta actually. They are veda-vidaha. Okay, they know a lot about the Vedas. And they are vīta-rāgāḥ. They have given up material attachments. They have taken the renounced order of life. Yad icchanto brahmacaryaṁ caranti tatte padaṁ saṅgraheṇa pravakṣye. So they take to celibacy, very strict life. In fact, Shankaracharya, who is the leader of the impersonalists, if you want to become his disciple, first of all, you have to become sannyasi. You have to become sannyasi. You have to be agreeable to become sannyasi. Otherwise, no, you cannot become. They're very strict in that. So they are very, renounced and focused. But you see, yad akṣaraṁ, you see, they chant the word Om. Om is who? Krishna. Pranavah sarva-vedeshu. I am the Om in all the Vedic literatures. Krishna says in the 7th chapter, 8th verse. So, unless it is chant the Om, you see, in the Vedic mantras, there are always, it starts with Om. Om tad Vishnoh paramam padam sada pashyanti surayah diviva chakshuratatam tad vipraso vipanyavo jagravam samindhate Vishnoryat paramam padam. So this is Rig Veda mantra. And in fact, we have the Purusha Sukta also. Om Sahasra Shirsha Purushah Sahasrakshah Sahasrapat Sabhumim Vishvato Vishvato. See, I forgot. Vishvato Kritva? No, not Kritva. So Atyatishthad Dashangulam. So these are all from the Rig Veda also. So every mantra will have Om in the beginning. So without Om, it is incomplete. So although they are kind of studying the Vedas and all, and even though they are wanting to go into Brahman effulgence, unless they chant Om, they cannot get the success. That's why it is said, especially yad akṣaraṁ veda-vido vadanti viśanti yad yatayo vīta-rāgāḥ yad icchanto brahmacaryaṁ caranti tatte padaṁ saṅgraheṇa pravakṣye. Now, this is the ultimate journey. Ultimate journey is to get out of this material world and go to the spiritual world. That is the journey. But it's interesting that whether now the destination of that journey is the absolute truth. And different people have different conceptions of the absolute truth. And depending on that, the journey may be slightly different. And that is explained. The destinations, I think you all know this. You see, vadanti tattvavit tattvam yajnanamadvayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdyate. So this is the ultimate journey. Ultimate journey is to get out of this material world. People are thinking, oh, I want to go to this country, I want to see the country, or I want to see this place, I want to see that place. That is all within the earth. Some people are even within the earth, they go a little farther only from their place. Some people go much farther into many countries and all that. But even then, there are others who will try going to other planets, like Elon Musk is trying to go to Mars planet, and that is touted as like a greatest frontier of advancement of science and technology, going to another planet and inhabiting the planet there and creating a civilization. And he's having big dreams about it. Although they may glorify this kind of activities very much, and they may even laud the technology that goes into it and the efforts that go into it, it's actually very childish. Yesterday somebody was saying, men, what is the difference between a boy and a man? I mean, in his attitude, it's just that the toys have become bigger. That's it. The same playing attitude, nothing. In other words, and that's a good observation, because when he's a small boy, he's playing with a small rocket or small trucks and all that. When he becomes big, he drives bigger cars, bigger rockets, and he goes after these bigger toys. But they're all toys nonetheless, because ultimately he is just involved in childish activities. He's not actually doing something very substantial. Although he thinks he's doing, just like a child, he thinks he's doing something very great. He's a very clever guy. He thinks like that. But actually, an adult will know whatever he's doing is complete nonsense. Um, so, a grown-up man in vridha means there are two kinds of vridha. One is um, sharira vridha, which is old age due to body, and jnana vridha, the person who is old by age, old by knowledge. One is old by age, one is old by knowledge. And the one who's old by knowledge means mature in knowledge. Maturity is the word. So vridha means one who's mature in either old age or by knowledge. So the person who, even though he may be old, but if he doesn't have knowledge, then he will behave like a small child. And other childlike adults may glorify such an attempt of going to another planet, it's a height of technology and all. But it's very childish, just jumping from one planet to another. Our journey here, we are talking about not just going to the next planet or the next available station or whatever. No, we are talking about completely crossing every single planet of the universe, talking about piercing the coverings of the universe, talking about being situated in the planets that exist outside of the universe, which is the spiritual world, and what is the nature of the planets there and how to go there and the process of going. So this is what we are concerned with. The topic that we are concerned with, the material scientists cannot even comprehend in millions of years. We are far ahead of these scientists. So we have to be convinced of this fact. We cannot think that we are doing some religious thing, they are doing some scientific thing, they are very advanced and all that. We are, we are practicing something. No. That's not the way we look at these things. We have to be convinced that the scientists are rascals, idiots. They don't know what they're doing. They're not much better than than boys who immature boys. They're just playing with bigger toys. That's all they're doing. They have no idea about what is the aim of life, what is actually, the real goal, and what attempt they should be actually making in human life, and what is the power of the human body. They think the power of the human body is to somehow or other make a settlement on Mars. No, we are capable of much more than that. And that's what we are talking about. But interestingly, we are not, although we are preparing for the ultimate journey, we're not talking about preparing for a spacecraft, preparing for weightlessness, going to these laboratories and practice. That's not our sadhana. The astronauts, their sadhana is that they practice the weightlessness and how to remain in a rocket, and how to pass stool in the rocket and in the space, and how to pass urine, and then how to drink water and everything. So this is This is their sadhana. But our sadhana is very different. We are not talking about spacecraft. We're not talking about any vehicle, nothing. We're talking about celibacy, chanting Om. That is what today's verse is all about, right? Yadakṣaraṁ veda-vido vadanti, brahmacaryaṁ caranti, then sarva-dvārāṇi saṁyamya, closing all the senses, the means stop sense gratification, um, how to move the life air to the top of the head. How is this even relevant to a journey? If you are supposed to go from, say, I'm supposed to go from Singapore to India, I start sitting down and concentrating between the eyebrows and chanting Om and practicing celibacy. Is that a preparation for a journey to India? People will laugh, right? I have to buy the ticket, I have to get on the plane and go there. So this is gross travel. There are other ways of travel. Because that's what we understand. We will laugh now, but honestly, there are yogis who actually travel even within the material world in that way. Prabhupada mentioned that, right? There are yogis in Haridwar, Rishikesh, and Gangotri, I mean Himalayas. So many yogis are there in Prayag. There are yogis who are hundreds of years old, thousands of years old, and they can travel at will, although they are materialistic yogis. So it's a different science, it's a more subtle science. We may laugh, but there are people who can do that. And with that, it is not only to compete with gross travel. What I mean to say is, oh, if I practice some yoga and then I can, there was this nice story. I think you all know this story probably. So, one man, he was in this village. Then he wanted to become a yogi, like anything. So eventually, he was he was not very much interested in like mundane life, just finding a job and like having a family. He wanted to have something more higher. So he wanted to become a yogi. So he went to Himalayas and he learned under some master, and then he became a yogi also. Then after 10 years, he came back, and he came back to his village and said that I became a yogi. Oh, what can you do? He said, I can walk on water. I can cross this river by walking. Oh, that's nice. But I just have to pay 2 rupees. I can walk. I can cross the river. So, yeah, actually, that man, his friend, he said, "Oh, you mean 10 years you spent and just learn how to cross the river? Your yogi power is worth 2 rupees, because with 2 rupees, those days 2 rupees. Now maybe cross the river, say 100 rupees. Let's say 100 rupees now. Your yogi power is worth only 100 rupees. What is this? I can pay the boatman and then he will take me there. What is the use of your? He got offended. How can you say my yogic power is only worth 100 rupees? Yeah, you can walk there free. I have to pay 100 rupees to go walk that. I mean, cross the same river, and I'll be there with you. So, what is the value of your yogic power? So, why is this example? What is the moral of the story? The moral of the story is these subtle ways of travel are not meant to compete with the gross means of travel. Oh, just because I can do it with yogic power and not a boat, and now advance. No, with that subtle way of travel, we can tap into higher ways of travel and not only focus on the geography of the earth, but also on the cosmography of the universe and beyond the cosmos, the spiritual cosmography. So, that is to go to the spiritual world. So, it opens up that whole potential. So, with subtle, we can do what gross can do, but we can also do much farther than that. And that is the real um, uniqueness of this, which the gross way of travel cannot compete with. With boat, you cannot, or with any spacecraft, you cannot cross over this universe and go to this planet of Vaikuntha planets. You can't. But these procedures mentioned here, these are part of sadhana, which take us there. But how? How does it do that? So this is the answer to that. The answer is travel is not exactly according to the ability of the body. To an extent, yes, to an extent. But more than that, it is the guna in which we are. Suppose if I am in tamogun, then I will be able to tread the path of tamogun. For example, if I am excessively in the mode of ignorance, I can be a pig. The pig body, the soul in the pig's body, he is under the influence of ignorance in a very heavy way. And therefore, he can enjoy things that we garbage. I mean, stool. We won't even look at it. It's so disgusting. But for them, that is the exact thing that they always look for. We don't even look at it, they look for it. Everywhere they're searching, where is stool, where is stool. So because of their mode, because of their guna, influence of guna. Caranam gunasangosya sadasadyoni janmasu. So guna sangasya, this guna sangha is what is will qualify us. So similarly, if I become more and more in sattva gun by practicing brahmacharya, by chanting the om, these things will get me to the mode of goodness and eventually out of it. And that will actually make me qualified to transport myself to higher realms. So that is the secret. Why they are practicing brahmacharya? Because that will enhance the mode of goodness. Then one will be qualified for higher planets. Janaloka, Mahaloka, Tapoloka, Satyaloka, and even spiritual worlds. So that is the whole point. Not to externally the body wear a suit and that is not the way. And have a spacecraft. That's not the way. Come to the point of goodness. Then yes, you can unlock the means to travel much more places than you can ever imagine. But we are not even interested in those places in the material world. We are interested in the spiritual world, which is it's the ultimate journey. That's why today's topic is the ultimate journey. So having understood this now, so that is why the processes mentioned here are very subtle processes. You cannot compare this to our gross processes. Oh, we're getting a vehicle. It sounds more logical. Okay, if I have to go from one place to another, I need to have a vehicle to transport me there. That is logical understanding. When we say logical, it is a very jada nyaya. It's very dull logic because we're only basing the logic on the capabilities of the gross body. The subtle body, we don't know the power of the subtle body. Some people know, they say mind over matter. What does that mean? Because although by sometimes, for example, medically, some things may not be possible. When they're medically analyzed, doctors say, oh, you can never, oh, your back is very seriously gone. You can never become a sportsman. But he eventually becomes a sportsman and he becomes the best sportsman. There are cases like that, right? How do they do that? Now, clinically, they were ruled out. But they did it. They defied so-called scientists, doctors who have studied for years and years and years of experience, decades of experience. But they outdid them. How? Mind over matter. That's just a very slight glimpse of the power of the subtle body. Now, it is much more than that. The mind is capable of much more than that. The intelligence is capable. The soul is capable of everything. I mean, he can go anywhere. So, when we understand that there are higher realms of our existence and higher processes, whereas the modern scientist is all about just the gross process. You see a nuclear weapon, you require a huge reactor and that uranium, and there's so much hazard, eco hazards coupled with it, and then there's huge reactors and missiles and the infrastructure, the amount of money that needs to be used is very huge. But that same thing can be achieved just by chanting mantra. They can make an arrow into a brahmastra. I mean, just look at how many billions of dollars have been saved. And no reactors, nothing. So even if you dig up a civilization that was Vedic advanced Vedic civilization, if you dig up the earth and find out some kind of technology, look for some kind of technology, you will not find, because they don't need these machines. We think advancement means to have huge machinery and huge, infrastructure and all these things. Infrastructure is for those people who are grossly involved. For the subtle people, there is a different structure involved. It is not this, structure of steel and all this. They can do differently. So they do by mantra. This is yantra process, that is mantra process. Yantra is machine, mantra means sound, subtle sound, vibration. So the modern scientists do not have access to the subtle sound of signs, subtle signs of sound. So here, so why these three verses we chose? Because there are three understandings of the absolute truth. Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavaniti Shabdyate. We'll go to that. Just now we saw, right? What is that? Vadanti Tattvavitastatvam Yajnanamadvayam Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavaniti Shabdyate. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. So it is the non-dual substance. It is just one substance. Absolute truth is one. But it is realized in three phases: Brahma, Paramatma, Bhagavan. So if my goal is Brahman, then there is a certain process which is called Jnana Yoga. If my goal is Paramatma, then I will have this Hatha Yoga process. If my goal is Bhagavan, then I have Bhakti Yoga process, which is the unalloyed devotion. 8th chapter 14th verse is unalloyed devotion, which is the next verse after today's three verses. If you see 8:14, अनन्यचेताः सततं यो मां स्मरति नित्यशः तस्याहं सुलभः पार्थ नित्ययुक्तस्य योगिनः. For one who always remembers me without deviation, I am easy to obtain, O son of Pritha, because of his constant engagement in devotional service. So he doesn't have to do, big vrata, tapa, dana, all these things. Of course, we still have some of the elements of those processes, because we are not doing in pure way. So we have some sadhana involved. Just a second. So we are not completely devoid of some of the elements of those practices. I will get to that. But for now, today's three verses are about the Jnani's endeavor for the ultimate destination and the yogi's endeavor for the ultimate destination. The next session will be about this bhaktas here, always. The bhaktas endeavor for self-realization. And it is the easiest. You see, the word sulabha, he did not use the word sulabha for the others. And you can see this explanation. If you see 8:11, veda-vido, these are the jnanis. They know the Vedas. They are always studying the Vedanta Sutra. These are the impersonalists, like Shankaracharya's followers. They are always into Vedanta study. In fact, when Prakashananda Saraswati met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Banaras, this Prakashananda Saraswati asked, "Why don't you study the Vedanta? Why are you dancing and singing?" So that is always they're into Vedanta. But the irony is that they don't know Vedanta. Vedanta krit veda-vido eva chaham. Vedanta, Vedaishta sarvair ahameva vedya. So Krishna has to be understood by all Vedic study, but they don't. But always they are into study of Vedanta. So this is their position. So anyway, they are called Jnanis. And for them, they into brahmacharya, into celibacy, sannyas, refraining from sex life, and studying Vedas, and chanting Om. And because of that Om, chanting Om, they actually attain the ultimate destination. In other words, even though one may not believe in the personality of Godhead, even if he is a Brahman enthusiast or a Paramatma enthusiast, even then he has to require the help of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of a sound vibration in order to achieve his desired destination. So, without the mercy of the Lord, no one can achieve their own destinations. Yeah? So, here 8, 12, and 13 describe the yogic process, whereas this one talks about jnana. These two talk about yoga. This is about Paramatma realization. So, sarva-dvārāṇi saṁyamya. So, stop sense gratification. Mano hṛdi nirudhya cha. Confining. What is that? Closing all doors. Detachment. Fixing the mind on the heart. Okay. So, confining the mind on the heart. In the heart, the Paramatma. Dhyanavastita tadgatena manasa pashyantiyam yoginam. Manasa means in the heart, in the mind. So that is the point. Mano hṛdi nirudhya cha, meditating on the super soul and chanting Om. Mūrdhny ādhāyātmanaḥ prāṇam āsthito yoga-dhāraṇām. So, and life air at the top of the head. Brahmarandhra. It is called Brahmarandhra because from here the soul can break out and then go to the Brahman and also another planet, material planets if he wants. But anyway, that's available. That process is available. So that is the process taken by the yogi. And next verse, there's continuation of it. Om ityeka akṣaraṁ brahma vyaharan mam anusmaran. So here it is mentioned again. He has to think of Krishna, chant the Om, and then leave the body in that way after doing all this yogic exercise. Then sayati paramam gatim. Now this paramam gatim is absolute truth. But which class of absolute truth is he understood? Does he realize? That is Paramatma only, not Bhagavan. Then here, constant engagement in devotional service. Nitya yuktasya yoginah sulabhaha partha smarati nityashaha ananya chetaha satatam. These are all classifications of bhakti. So that we will go next. But you see here, although, so now you understand, right? You see, this is explained in the purport of the 8:14. You see, this verse especially describes the final destination attained by the unalloyed devotees who serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Bhakti Yoga. Previous verses have mentioned 4 different kinds of devotees: the distressed, the inquisitive, those who seek material gain, and the speculative philosophers. Different processes of liberation have also been described: Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Hatha Yoga. The principles of these yoga systems have some bhakti added, but this verse particularly mentions pure Bhakti Yoga without any mixture of Jnana, Karma, or Hatha. As indicated by the word ananya chetaha. In pure Bhakti Yoga, the devotee desires nothing but Krishna. Pure devotee does not desire promotion to heavenly planets, nor does he seek oneness with the Brahmajyoti or salvation or liberation from material entanglement. Pure devotee does not desire anything. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, the pure devotee is called Nishkama, which means he has no desire for self-interest. Perfect peace belongs to him alone, not to them who strive for personal gain. Whereas a Jnana Yogi, Karma Yogi, or Hatha Yogi has his own selfish interests. A perfect devotee has no desire other than to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the Lord says that for anyone who is unflinchingly devoted to him, he is easy to attain. There is the other verse, which is in the 12th chapter, 5th verse. Tasyaham sulabha partha. Here, kleshodhikatarastesham. Klesha means trouble. Adhikatara means great trouble. You see, adhikatara, very much. Klesho adhikatarastesham avyakta sakta chetasam. Avyakta hi gatir dukkham dehavadbhiravapyate. For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifest impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. So this is the situation of especially the Brahman enthusiast, the one who wants to merge into Brahman. What happens to the Paramatma? Because he meditates on the form, right? So he should be at least a little bit into form. Yes, But then, unfortunately, you see, let's see, I think some of you know this, but I'll again go through it. Long ago we showed this, but it is good to go through this again. What is the destination of the Paramatma, people? So this verse explains this. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya chapter 6, text 269. ब्रह्मे ईश्वरे सायुज्य द्वैत प्रकार ब्रह्म सायुज्य होते ईश्वर सायुज्य धिक्कार. Sarva-Bhatacharya continued, there are two kinds of sayujya mukti, merging into the Brahman effulgence and merging into the personal body of the Lord. Merging into the Lord's body is even more abominable than merging into his effulgence. This is interesting. Now, although Paramatma realized person is supposed to be higher than the Brahman realized person, because Paramatma realization is higher than Brahman realization, Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavaneti. But because they don't take shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, they again fall down. And they're going to merging into the body of the Lord. And here, Sarva-Bhatacharya is saying that merging into the personal body of the Lord is even worse than abominable than merging into his effulgence. So although they think of the Paramatma, they want to merge with him in his body, whereas the Brahman people, they go and they want to merge into the effulgence. Now, let's look at the purport. According to the opinion of the Mayavadi Vedantists, the living entity's ultimate success is to merge into the impersonal Brahman. The impersonal Brahman or bodily effulgence of the Supreme Lord is known as Brahmaloka or Siddhaloka. See? According to the Brahma Samhita 540, Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagadanda Koti, the material universes are generated from the bodily rays of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yogis who follow the principles of Patanjali accept the personality of the Absolute Truth, but they want to merge into the transcendental body of the Supreme Lord. That is their desire. Being the greatest authority, the Supreme Lord can easily allow many millions of living entities to merge into his body. The origin of everything is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan, and his bodily effulgence is known as Brahma Jyoti, Brahmaloka or Siddhaloka. Thus, Brahmaloka or Siddhaloka is a place where many spark-like living entities, parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, are assembled. Because these living entities do not wish to keep their individual existences, they are combined and allowed to remain in Brahmaloka like so many atomic particles of sunshine emanating from the sun. The word Siddha is very significant. Siddha refers to one who has realized the Brahman effulgence and who has complete knowledge that the living entity is not a material atom but a spiritual spark. This understanding is described in the Bhagavad-gītā as Brahma Bhuta. In the conditioned state, the living entity is known as Jiva Bhuta, or the living force within matter. Jiva means the living force. Jada means dull. Jiva means the living, active. Bhuta means this material elements. So the Jiva Bhuta. Brahma Bhuta living entities are allowed to stay in Brahmaloka or Siddhaloka, but unfortunately they sometimes again fall into the material world because they're not engaged in devotional service. This is the point. Even though the Paramatma realization is higher, but because he's not engaged in devotional service, he doesn't want to become a servitor, he wants to merge. That is his problem. Now, let's read on. This is supported by the verse in Srimad Bhagavatam beginning with Yenyera Vindaksha. Yenyera Vindaksha Vimuktamaninas-tvayasta-bhavada Vishuddha Buddhaya Aruhya Krichrena Param Padam Tataha Patantadho Nadrita Yushmadangrayaha. These semi-liberated souls, not liberated, semi-liberated souls falsely claim to be liberated, but unless one engages in devotional service to the Lord, he is still materially contaminated. Therefore, these living entities have been described as vimukta maninaha, meaning that they falsely consider themselves liberated, although their intelligence is not yet purified. Although these living entities undergo severe austerities to rise to the platform of Siddhaloka, they cannot remain there perpetually, for they are bereft of ananda or bliss. Even though these living entities attain the Brahma Bhuta stage and realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead through his bodily effulgence, they nonetheless fall down due to neglecting the Lord's service. They do not properly utilize whatever little knowledge they have of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Not attaining ananda or bliss, they come down to the material world to enjoy. This is certainly a fall down for one who is actually liberated. The bhaktas consider such a fall down equal to achieving a place in hell. Kaivalyam narakayate, that is the exact verse. The followers of the Patanjali yoga system, now until now it was about Brahman realization, now about yoga. The followers of the Patanjali yoga system actually want to merge into the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This indicates that they do not want to engage in his service despite knowledge of him, and thus their position is even more abominable than that of those who want to merge into the Lord's effulgence. In other words, the Brahman realized people, they do not know about the form of the Lord. Whereas the Paramatma realized people, they know that there is a Lord has form, but still they not want to engage in his service, and they want to merge into him and become one with him and become as powerful as him with all the mystic powers. This is what they want. So this is even after knowing that he's a person and he's the greatest, still I don't submit. That is even worse. And thus their position is even more abominable than that of those who want to merge into the Lord's effulgence. These yogis meditate on the four-handed Vishnu form of the Lord in order to merge into his body. Look at this people. The Patanjali system describes the form of the Lord as klesha karma vipakashayir aparamrishtah purusha vishesha ishvarah. Klesha karma vipakashayir aparamrishtah purusha vishesha ishvarah. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is a person who does not partake of a miserable material life. This is there in the Patanjali Sutra, Yoga Sutra. The yogis accept the eternity of the Supreme Person in one of their mantras. Sa purvesham api guruhu kalana vachedat. Such a person is always supreme and is not influenced by the element of time. So this is also in the Yoga Sutras. The followers of the Patanjali system therefore accept the eternity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yet, according to them, Purushartha shunyanam pratiprasavah kaivalyam swarupa pratishtha va chitishaktiritti. They believe that in the perfectional stage, the conception of Purusha is vanquished. According to their description, chitishaktiritti, they believe that when one becomes perfect, he cannot remain a person. This yoga system is therefore abominable because its final conception is impersonal. In the beginning, these yogis accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but they ultimately give up this idea in order to become impersonal. They are most unfortunate because although they have a personal conception of the Absolute Truth, they neglect to render devotional service to the Lord and thus fall down again into the material world. As mentioned above, this idea is supported by Srimad Bhagavatam 10-32. Aruhya krichrena param padam tataha patantyathaha anadrita yushmadangraya. Anadrita means adrita, adar. In Hindi, adar means respect. Adrita means respect. Sadrita means respect. Nadrita means without respect. That means they have no regard for the lotus feet of the Lord. Yushmad angraya. Angraya means lotus feet. Yushmad means a couple, two lotus feet. Due to neglecting the lotus feet of the Lord, these yogis again fall down into the material existence. Patanti adhaha. Just a second, I want to confirm that. Yushmad means not two. Yugala means two. That's what. Yushmad means your. Okay, Yushmad angraya. So, anadrita Yushmad angraya. Due to neglecting the lotus feet of the Lord, these yogis again fall down into the material existence. Patantyathaha. Consequently, this path of yoga is more abominable than the impersonalist's path. This conclusion is also supported by Lord Kapildev in the following verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam 329:13. This is here. Salokya sarshi samipya sarupya ekattvamapyuta diyamanam na grihananti vinamat sevanam janaha. Even though he is offered all kinds of liberation, the pure devotee does not accept them. He is fully satisfied engaging in the service of the Lord. So now you know why the Brahman and Paramatma realized persons, they cannot achieve the highest. They can achieve actually, if they associate with devotees. Then yes, just like Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he was vastly learned and he was in the established firmly in the impersonal conception of the Absolute Truth. But because he associated with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he became personalist after that. Same thing with Prakashananda Saraswati and many others. So they have to associate with a devotee. So we are talking about a scientific process of travel to the ultimate destination, which is the kingdom of God. And in that also there are stages. The effulgence, the Paramatma realization, which is, you know, a stepping stone towards personal realization. But if we don't go to personal realization, we'll fall back into impersonalism, and then after that fall back into materialistic life. So we have to come to the lotus feet of the Lord and actually get to the point of serving Him. Anyabhilashita shunyam. So that is the whole point. Now, having understood all of this, now it is not now. Although this is today's verses are about jnana and yoga, there are some aspects of these verses which is also included in the bhakti. That is like brahmacaryaṁ and veda-vido. We have to study Vedas or Vedic literature. In our case, Akhila Shruti Saram, which is Bhagavatam, and Sarvopanishado Gavo Dogdha Gopalanandana, Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta, Dugdham Gītamritam Mahat. This Gita, Bhagavad-gītā, is the essence of the Vedic literature. And Bhagavatam is also called Akhila Shruti Saram, Sarva Vedanta Saram Hi. So that is also explained here. Let's यस्वानुभावमखिलश्रुतिसारमेकम् अध्यात्मदीपमतितितीर्षतां तमोऽन्धं संसारिणां करुणयाः पुराणगुह्यं तं व्याससूनुमुपयामि गुरुं मुनीनाम्. Akhila-shruti-saram. What is that? Cream of all the Vedic literature. Akhila means all Vedas. Shruti. Shruti means actually Shruti, Smriti, Purana, Pancharatra, everything together. Saram, cream, ekam, the only one. So, of course, this is talking about Shukadeva Goswami. Let me offer my respectful obeisance unto him, Shukadeva Goswami, Shuka, the the spiritual master of all sages, the son of Vyasadeva, who out of his great compassion for those gross materialists who struggle to cross over the darkest regions of material existence, spoke this most confidential supplement to the cream of Vedic knowledge after having personally assimilated it by experience. So this is one verse, and there is Sarva Vedanta Saram Hi. 12, 13, 15, if I'm not wrong. Sarva Vedanta Saram Hi Shri Bhagavatam Tad Rasamrita Triptasya Nanyatra Syadrati Kvachit. Srimad Bhagavatam is declared to be the essence of all Vedanta philosophy. One who has felt satisfaction from its nectarian mellow will never be attracted to any other literature. This is also said in the second chapter of Bhagavad-gītā. Kim va parairishvara sadyo hṛdya vrudhyate prakritavistu shushrushubhishtakshanat. Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kim va parairishvara. Where is the need for reading any other book other than Bhagavatam? So all these verses are there. So now veda-vido, there is a point. Akṣaraṁ. Akṣaraṁ means Om. Now we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. This Hare Krishna Mahamantra is non-different from Om, but it is more personal. Whereas Om is impersonal, more impersonal. But Jiva Goswami explains very nicely the meaning of Om. You see, Abhinatvan Nama Namino. Without Omkara, no Vedic mantra is successful. The Goswamis therefore declare that Pranava Omkara is the complete representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they have analyzed Omkara in terms of its alphabetical constituents as follows. Akarenochyate Krishna Sarvalokaika Ukarenochyate Radha Makaro Jivavachakaha. Omkara is a combination of the letters A, U, and M. Akaranochyate Krishna. The letter A, Akara, refers to Krishna, who is Sarvalokaika Nayakaha, the master of all living entities and the planets, material and spiritual. Nayaka means leader. He is the supreme leader, Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. The letter U, Ukara, indicates Srimati Radharani, the pleasure potency of Krishna, and Ma, Makara, indicates the living entities, jivas. Thus, Om is the complete combination of Krishna, his potency, and his eternal servitors. In other words, Omkara represents Krishna, his name, fame, pastimes, entourage, expansions, devotees, potencies, and everything else pertaining to him. So that is the meaning of Om. Huh? As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu states in the present verse of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Sarva Vishwadhama, Omkara is resting place of everything, just as Krishna is resting place of everything. Brahmano hi pratisthaham. So anyway, this is the point. Om, this is the meaning. So it is actually Krishna himself. Pranava Sarva Vedeshu. But it is more direct with the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So there are indirect references or secondary names of Krishna and primary names of Krishna. That is also explained in I'm just trying to um, remember those references. Okay, wait. Oh, no. Where is that? I quoted this in my that Gorgopal video, the third video which I have against the Bhagavad-gītā, where they refer indirectly to the Supreme. Um, the Mayavadis, they're offenders, therefore they cannot chant. If somebody can help me with the in the comment section, that will be helpful. What was the chapter number? Why? It's in Chaitanya Charitamrita. How I cannot find it? All kinds of combinations. Actually, um, offenders, offenders, Mayavadis. Is this the one? Ah, we're getting near. Okay. Because the Mayavadis, this is from Madhyalila 17:143. Because the Mayavadis are great offenders and atheistic philosophers, the holy name of Krishna does not come from their mouths. Purport. Because they are constantly blaspheming the Supreme Personality of Godhead by saying that he has no head, hands, or legs, Mayavadi philosophers remain offenders for many, many births, even though they have partially realized Brahman. However, if such impersonalists are not offenders at the lotus feet of Lord, they immediately become devotees in the association of a devotee. In other words, if an impersonalist is not an offender, he can become a devotee if he gets a chance to associate with other devotees. If he is an offender, he cannot be converted even by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No, not this. It is about this though. Indirectly. Why? Just so frustrated right now. Uh, there we go. 17.132. Oh, we took out this verse, right? Hmm. Okay. You see, there is no difference between Krishna's body and himself or between his name and himself. But as far as the conditioned soul is concerned, one's name is different from one's body, from one's original form and soul. Now, Mayavadi philosophers cannot understand that the living entity is equal in quality with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because they do not accept this, they think that the living entity has been falsely divided from the original Brahman due to being conditioned by Maya. Okay. Hmm. His body and himself are both the same absolute truth. Not having perfect knowledge of Krishna, such impersonalists certainly commit offenses at his lotus feet. Therefore, they do not utter Krishna, the original name of the absolute truth. In their impersonal way, they utter the name of impersonal Brahman, spirit soul. In other words, they indulge in indirect indications of the absolute truth. Even if they happen to utter the names Govinda, Krishna, or Madhava, they still cannot understand that these names are as good as Govinda, Krishna, or Madhava, the person. Because they are ultimately impersonalists, their uttering of the personal name has no potency. Actually, they do not believe in Krishna but consider all these names to be material vibrations. Not being able to appreciate the holy name of the Lord, they simply utter indirect names like Brahman, Atma, and Chaitanya. Finally. So, there are direct names of the Lord and indirect names of the Lord. Ah. So the Mayavadis, they like to like utter the indirect names of the Lord, whereas the personalists, they want to do chant the direct names of the Lord. 6:16:51. Aham vai sarva bhutani bhutatma bhutabhavanah shabda brahma param brahma mamo bheshashvati tanu. All living entities, moving and non-moving, are my expansions and are separate from me. I am the super soul of all living beings who exist because I manifest them. I am the form of the transcendental vibrations like omkāra and Hare Krishna Hare Ram. And I am the supreme absolute truth. These two forms of mine, namely the transcendental sound and the eternally blissful spiritual form of the deity, are my eternal forms, they are not material. 17, 129 and 130 are quoted in the video. Okay, so let's go there again. 29. Yeah, this is the one. They simply utter the words Brahman, Atma, and Chaitanya. So they utter indirect. Why could Prakashananda not utter the names Krishna and Hari, as he chanted the name Chaitanya thrice? As far as I am concerned, simply by seeing you, I am moved to chant the holy names Krishna and Hari. So in this way, so omkāra is Krishna himself, but the Mayavadis chant this and have their own understanding of it. But the Goswamis explain in different way: akara, ukara, and makara. But Hare Krishna, Hare Ram is very direct. There is no scope for any speculation. So, if you come back to 8:11 verse, so we do have, in other words, all aspects of the Brahman realize and Paramatma realize included in Bhakti Yoga, but especially when we are in the beginning process, when we are not pure devotees, then we also follow some other processes like brahmacaryaṁ. So we have like no illicit sex, that is brahmacharya. As we're talking about brahmacharya, there is a new adult dating chat free comment, some spam comment. Please block this rascal. Okay, so that's what we're against. So we're against this nonsense that is being propagated in the comment section. So brahmacharyam caranti akṣaraṁ om. So we chant Hare Krishna. So we have our chanting process. Veda-vido, we have our Vedic study, which is Bhagavad-gītā and Bhagavatam. And yatayo vīta-rāgāḥ. So we refrain from sense gratification, engage in Krishna's service. Then we practice brahmacharyam. So we do these things, but it's included in our bhakti sadhana. This is why bhakti yoga, although it's the easiest, it has all the others. So in the impersonalist, to practice brahmacharya, is very rigid about it, is mechanical and rigid about it. Whereas the brahmacharya of Krishna consciousness is done simply by engaging Krishna, our senses in Krishna's service. Automatically, yadavadhi mamachetah Krishna padaravinde navanavarasadhaman rantum masi tadavadhvata nari sangame smaryamane bhavati mukhavikara shushtu nishtivanam cha. So brahmacharya is automatically practiced just by thinking about Krishna. That is the special prerogative of bhakti yogis. By just being attracted to Krishna, they are no more attracted to sex life. So brahmacharya is automatically practiced. Whereas actual brahmacharya has very many strictures. But these strictures are automatically practiced by devotees. But again, only when one is on the level of Haridas Thakur, he can completely practice. But in the beginning, we have to take these processes along with the chanting of Hare Krishna. Because our current stage of chanting, of offensive chanting, is not enough. And therefore, the acharyas have commented extensively on this particular topic, where it is said, the holy name of Krishna is so powerful. Akrishtihi krita chetasam sumanasam ucchatanam chamhasam achandālamamukaloka sulabho vaśyascha muktishriyah no diksham na cha satkriyam na cha purash charyam manādikshate mantroyam rasanasprageva phalati Shri Krishna Namatmaka. The holy name of Lord Krishna is an attractive feature for many saintly liberal people. It is the annihilator of all sinful reactions and is so powerful that save for the dumb who cannot chant it, it is readily available to everyone, including the lowest type of man, the Chandala. The holy name of Krishna is the controller of the opulence of liberation and it is identical with Krishna. When a person simply chants the holy name with his tongue, immediate effects are produced. Chanting the holy name does not depend on the initiation, pious activities, or the purascharya regulative principles generally observed before initiation. The holy name does not wait for any of these activities, it is self-sufficient. Now, this is from Padyavali. Now, although this is the case, the acharyas have commented extensively especially here. Diksha purascharya vidhi apeksha na kare, jihva sparshe achandal savar uddhari. One does not have to undergo initiation or execute the activities required before initiation. Purascharya are just like before initiation, we check whether the person can follow at least 6 months of no illicit sex, no gambling, no meat eating, no meat eating, no illicit sex, no gambling, no intoxication. So this is Purascharya, and chanting and following Mangalarati, morning program, Bhagavatam class, eating only prasadam. So if he is steady, then he can be initiated. So that, in fact, there is a whole rigorous process of Purascharya. But this Purascharya is what is recommended by Prabhupada for us. But actually, Purascharya is much more extensive than this. But anyway, that Purascharya is not required, as said here. Just by chanting it is it's self-sufficient. But why? You see here, you see how long this purport is. And all this is about Diksha. The requirement of Diksha. Why it is necessary. So Jiva Goswami explains Diksha in his Bhakti Sandarbha. Divyam Jnanam Yato Dadya Tasmad Kuriyat Papasya Saṅkṣayam Tatha Diksheti Sa Prokta Deshikais Tattva Ko Vidaya. Diksha is the process. Okay, he defends Diksha. Then he quotes again Dvijanam Anupetanam Swakarmadhyayanadishu Yathadhikaro Nastiha Syachopanayanadananu Tathatradikshitanam Tu Mantra Devarchanadishu Nadhikarostyatah Kuryad Atmanam Shiva Samstutam. Even though born in a Brahmana family, one cannot engage in Vedic rituals without being initiated and having a sacred thread. Although born in a Brahmana family, one becomes Brahmana only after initiation and the sacred thread ceremony. Unless one is initiated as a Brahmana, one cannot worship the holy name properly. According to the Vaishnava regulative principles, one must be initiated as a Brahmana. The Hari Bhakti Vilas quotes the following: Adikshitasya vamo kritam sarvam nirarthakam pashuyonim avapnoti diksha virahito janaha. Unless one is initiated by a bona fide spiritual master, all his devotional activities are useless. A person who is not properly initiated can descend again into animal species. So it is a duty of every human being to surrender to a bona fide spiritual master. So why? Why the acharyas are in the purport, it is so opposite to the verse. Whereas the verse says there is no requirement of Diksha, but the acharya is emphasizing Diksha by quoting so many verses. Why is this so? It is because of our impure. If we chant purely, there is nothing that is needed. But who is chanting purely? So, to come to the purified stage of chanting, or at least offenseless chanting, so we have to take Diksha. And Diksha, especially, there is, this is more technical. This is the Brahmana and Vaishnava book. It's explained very nicely that there is Shaukra Janma, Savitra Janma, and Daiksha Janma. 3 types of births. Well, I don't want to go too much into that. But anyway, so Diksha by a bona fide spiritual master in the Vaishnava Sampradaya is required. Otherwise, where are we going to get even the mantra from? So therefore, it is mentioned all these things. So once one comes to the pure chanting, no more. So until we come to the pure chanting, we still have to follow brahmacharya. Although we are not like Yamunacharya, completely attached to Krishna, and therefore we spit at the thought of sex life. Not really. So at this stage, we have to chant Hare Krishna and practice brahmacharya. That's why there is no illicit sex mentioned. Oh, you should not do this. If one is really attracted, then no need to tell him, because he automatically doesn't do it. So these things are involved still as part of the sadhana. But they can be maintained only with the strength coming from chanting and engaging in devotional service in different ways. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Archanam, Vandanam, Padasevanam, Dasam, Sakhyam, Atmanivedanam. Unless we engage in all those 9 Navavida Bhakti, we cannot establish or be steady in our following of these principles. So going back all the way to that verse. So we do all these things that are mentioned. 8:11, veda-vido. We do study, but we study Bhagavad-gītā and Bhagavatam, the Vaishnava literatures, which are the topmost literatures of the Vedas. Then we do practice brahmacharya. We do chant, instead of akṣaraṁ, we chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So in this way. And for the yogis, for example, sarva-dvārāṇi saṁyamya. So stopping sense gratification, that is also involved, but not by this mechanical pratyahara process. There is atyahara, there is ahara, there is pratyahara. Atyahara means too much sense gratification, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur he wrote a book called Bhaktya-loka, where he goes into detail into the 6 favorable things to devotional service and the six unfavorable things. And 6 unfavorable things, atyahara, Prabhupada also explains that ahara does not only mean eating, but also collecting, more than what is required, and engaging in sensory activities more than what is required. That is atyahara. Ahara means to consume or to engage our senses, but anything more than what is necessary. What is necessary? Necessary means it is defined by keeping the body and soul together. That's it. Kamasya nendriya pritir labho jiveta yavata jivasya tattva jignasa nartho yasceha karmabhihi 1 to 10 Bhagavatam. So sense gratification should be performed only to the extent of keeping the body and soul together and using the body in Krishna's service as a maintenance for Krishna's gift of this human body that he has given us, so that it can be used in Krishna's service. So that is how we do it. So we have regulated, as also explained in the 6th chapter, yukta hara viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu yukta swapnava bodhasya yogo bhavati dukkha. So these are mentioned in 6:17 and 6:16 also, actually. Let's go to 16. Natyashnatas natyashnatastu yogosti nachaikantam anashnatah nachati swapnashilasya jagrato naiva charjuna. There is no possibility of one's becoming a yogi or Arjuna if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep enough. Yukta hara viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu yukta swapnavabodhasya yogo bhavati dukkha. He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all pains by practicing the yoga system. So we have our own way of doing it in Bhakti Yoga Sadhana. So we have how to sarva-dvārāṇi saṁyamya, how to stop sense gratification, by engaging all the senses in Krishna's service. Like Ambarish Maharaj. So instead of the material activities filling the senses, we have to fill it with spiritual activities. Let's see Ambarish Maharaj. Savay mana Krishna padaravinde vacham sivaikuntha gunanuvarnane. These 3 verses. Savay mana Krishna padaravindayor vacham sivaikuntha gunanuvarnane karau harer mandiramarjanadishu shrutim chakara chuta satkathodaye मुकुंदलिंगालय दर्शने दृशो तद्भृत्य गात्र स्पर्शेंग संगमम घ्राणं च तत्पाद सरोज सौरभे श्रीमत्तुलस्या रसनां तदर्पिते पादौ हरे क्षेत्र पदानुसर्पणे शिरो हृषीकेश पदाभिवंदने कामं च दास्ये न तु कामकाम्यया यथोत्तम श्लोक जनाश्रया रतिः. So of course there are other verses also, 10, 80, 3 and 4. And then there is 2, 3, 20, 21, 22, 23. These verses are also there. But this example of Maharaj Ambarish suffices to understand. Maharaj Ambarish always engaged his mind in meditating upon the lotus feet of Krishna, his words in describing the glories of the Lord, his hands in cleansing the temple of the Lord, and his ears in hearing the words spoken by Krishna or about Krishna. He engaged his eyes in seeing the deity of Krishna, Krishna's temples, and Krishna's places like Mathura and Vrindavan. He engaged his sense of touch in touching the bodies of the Lord's devotees. He engaged his sense of smell in smelling the fragrance of tulsi offered to the Lord. And he engaged his tongue in tasting the Lord's prasad. He engaged his legs in walking to the holy places and temples of the Lord, and his head in bowing down before the Lord, and all his desires in serving the Lord 24 hours a day. Indeed, Maharaj Ambarish never desired anything for his own sense gratification. He engaged all his senses in devotional service and various engagements related to the Lord. This is the way to increase attachment for the Lord and be completely free from all material desires. So now this is the way sarva-dvārāṇi saṁyamya. That's how we do it. As bhakti yogis, that is the way. So there is this element of yoga included in our sadhana, but it is not a very difficult process in our case. Whereas they try to, completely still their mind and all these things. We are completely active. We can, hear about Krishna. We can engage all our senses without fear in service of Krishna and never be afraid of being attacked by Maya. Mano hṛdi nirudhya cha. So fixing the mind on the heart where the Lord is situated. That again is done. Agachit smaranam vishnor bahvayasena sadhyate oshtha spandana matrena kirtanam tu tatovaram. In the Vaishnava Chintamani book it is mentioned that remembering Krishna definitely gives us liberation and attachment to Krishna. But it is achieved only with extraordinary effort, especially in this Kali Yuga. But just by moving one's lips, oshtha spandana matrena, one can achieve the same destination as remembering Krishna, meditation on Krishna, just by moving one's lips. So mano hṛdi nirudhya cha in our case will be chanting again. So with chanting we have yad akṣaraṁ veda-vido, then the akṣaraṁ is done, and mano hṛdi nirudhya cha is also done. And when one becomes more advanced in chanting, all the pastimes becomes manifest in everything. Everything is done automatically. Mūrdhny ādhāyātmanaḥ prāṇam āsthito yoga-dhāraṇām. So this particularly we as bhakti yogis, devotees, we don't do this. This brahmacaryaṁ, trying to get out of the head and going into the Vaikuntha planet. We don't follow this process. So Prabhupada actually mentions pratyahara, you see. Pratyahara means to withdraw the senses from their sense activities. So we don't do atyahara, we don't do exactly pratyahara, but we do complete engagements in Krishna's service. In that way, pratyahara is automatically done. Here, one should not, okay. The sense organs for acquiring knowledge, the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and touch should be fully controlled and should not be allowed to engage in self-gratification. So this is automatically done in Krishna consciousness. And here, this is where in the yoga practice, vibrating the sacred syllable Om, the supreme combination of letters. If one thinks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and quits his body, he will certainly reach the spiritual planets. The chanting of Hare Krishna mantra is clearly recommended for this age. The impersonal sound of Krishna is Om, but the sound Hare Krishna contains Om. And we know why. Because A, U and Ma. A is Krishna, U is Radharani, Ma is a living entity. He certainly reaches one of the spiritual planets according to his mode of his practice. The devotees of Krishna enter the Krishna planet Golok Vrindavan. So in this way it is mentioned. Now one last thing in the 8:11 purport. You see here, the Lord says that Brahman, although one without a second, has various manifestations and features. What is this? And that is the three, Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavan Shabdite. But Lord does not particularly say it, right? But he says it through the processes that he is mentioning. That is for the jnanis and yogis, and ultimately the next one, 8:14, is for bhaktas. So in this way, he is actually he is saying that it has many features and manifestations. You see, in the Vedic system of knowledge, students from the very beginning are taught to vibrate Om and learn of the ultimate impersonal Brahman by living with the spiritual master in complete celibacy. In this way, they realize two of Brahman's features. What is that? This practice is essential for the student's advancement in spiritual life. What is this? What is this meaning? In this way, they realize two of Brahman's features. which is Sat and Chit. Ananda, not yet. Not yet. Ananda is only achieved with Bhagavan realization. In fact, only with bhakti, these processes will have meaning. Brahmacharya or adhyaya. So, adhyaya, to study the Vedic literature, chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and Brahmacharyam. All these have meaning only when it is coupled with Bhakti Yoga. That is why Narada Pancharatra, it says, um, आराधितो यदि हरिस् तपसा ततः किम् नाराधितो यदि हरिस् तपसा ततः किम् अंतर्बहिर्यदि हरिस् तपसा ततः किम् नान्तर्बहिर्यदि हरिस् तपसा ततः किम्. What is the meaning? If we are worshipping Krishna, what is the use of tapasya? If we are not worshipping Krishna, what is the use of tapasya? If we see Krishna inside and outside of everything, what is the use of tapasya? And if we can't see Krishna inside and outside of everything, what is the use of tapasya? So what is the use of tapasya? The use of tapasya is to get to from the point of naradhito yadi hari to aradhito yadi hari. The transition is where tapasya is needed. So if we are doing tapasya for Brahman realization or what, and if we don't get to ultimately Bhagavan, aradhito yadi hari, then we will, even after attaining all the tapasya and everything, if we still remain at naradhito yadi hari, what is the use of the tapasya? And actually, that's why he goes back to complete atheism again. Again, he goes back into material life. He will fall down. Arohi krichrena param padam tata patantadho nadrata yushmadangrayah. So this is the explanation. And the whole point is to understand antar bahir yadi haris. So Krishna is inside and outside of everything. And that is understood by devotional service. Bahir Narsimha Hridaya Narsimha. And Prahlad Maharaj saw the Narsimha in the pillar. Antar Bahir Yadi Hari. So that is devotional service. So now we are not there. So to get there, that's why these things are necessary. So if we take to this vehicle of tapasya and vrata or dana or all these things, swadhyaya, but if we don't get to the destination, what is the point of taking to all these things? If I take a car and start off thinking that I should reach that place, but I drive and drive and drive, I don't reach that place, what is the point? What am I doing? Wandering, vagabond. So, in this spiritual journey, in this ultimate journey, we should not remain vagabonds. We should have a destination, that is Bhagavan. That is the strongest destination. And unless we reach that, we will fall back. Just like recently, 2 years back, they went into space. Who is that? Jeff Bezos and Richard Branson. They went into space with their private spacecraft. Oh, space, and then came back. There were a few minutes in space and came back. What is the point? What did you do? You just jumped higher than a monkey, that's all. Monkey jumps a little bit, you jumped very high. But compared to the real height you have to go in human life, the real capacity that there is of the human body to jump all the way to the spiritual world, that is the most worthwhile jump. And that is what this preparation is all about. If I just jump and again fall down, you're a monkey. You're a monkey. You're no better than a monkey. Jeff Bezos is a monkey. Richard Branson is a monkey. Why? They're just jumping. They're just jumping. They're doing nothing other but jumping. And not only they, those who go into heavenly planets, they also are jumping a little bit higher. They go to the heavenly planets, actually land there, little bit play around for millions of years and come back. That is also jumping. And those who are Brahman realize impersonalism, they also climb. Aruhi krichrena param padam tataha. They climb to the highest. They go beyond the material world. Again fall down. So we are just climbing. Karmis, they are falling. They are like from earth, they are falling down to hellish planets. Those who want to do a little bit more, they will jump a little bit. Monkeys, they jump a little bit. But this Richard Branson and these kind of guys, or even Elon Musk, they're trying to jump a little bit higher. But the followers of Vedas, Karmakanda, they jump much higher, but then again fall down. Tetam bhukta svargalokam vishalam, kshina punyam arthalokam viśanti. What is the point? So the impersonalists jump much higher. And even this Karmakanda stuff, they can jump. Even Jnanis, they go to Maharloka, Tapoloka, Satyaloka, they go there also. Unadulterated brahmacharis. They go there. Tapoloka and all these things. And then again after that they can fall down. They can actually become advanced from there also, upwards, but they can also fall down. It is not a permanent position. It is still a fallible position. It's a fallen position. Still. Any position in this material world is a fallen position. Brahma Jyoti is also a fallen position, what to speak of material world. So, and if you go to Brahman realization, Paramatma realization, still one will fall down. So, in our ultimate journey, we have to reach that ultimate topmost planet. And if we don't, we will fall down. That solid shelter is Krishna's lotus feet. And that will be the subject of the next class. So that's where I want to end. And if there are any questions, we will take them now. Kishore Patvardhan. Jay, I respect everything. I believe in God 100%, but today I stand in zero. Even God left me in the center of the road. You know, we left God in the center of the road. God never left us. He's sitting in your heart. He's following you wherever you're going. Even when you became a pig, when you're eating stool happily, he was sitting beside you. So it is a misconception that Krishna has left us. We have left him. The problem is we don't own up to the mistake. We always blame Krishna. We always blame God for all our problems. So, but we are the problem. There is a material saying. One comedian, he said, "How can you face the problem when your face is the problem? How can you face the problem when your face is the problem?" That is exactly what we are. Our face, we ourselves are the problem. How can you face the problem when you are the problem? Look in the mirror, then you will face yourself. Then you will understand. So, but our mirror is also dusty. Cheto darpana marjanam. So start chanting. Krishna never left us. We left Krishna. We start blaming Krishna for that. So this is not good. So you read Bhagavad-gītā and hopefully you will get all your answers. Krishna never left you. That is for sure. Vrindavaneshwari Mataji. Prabhuji, when we are doing our sadhana and trying to follow rules and regulations, so people who have no interest, they think following all this is very difficult for them to do. And eventually they want to stay away from Krishna consciousness. So Prabhuji, if they think like that, am I being a wrong example to them? What is a better way to help them understand about Krishna consciousness? You ask them. So these are all very difficult to do, right? So tell them, yes, I agree. It is certainly difficult to pass the IIT exam. So just because somebody has passed, oh, that doesn't discount or that doesn't belittle the achievement because nobody is interested or they are scared to go in and attempt that. I'm just giving a material example. So if you're doing it, then you have to explain to them, how am I able to do it? Like today also I met somebody. So he was saying, do you watch movies? I said no. He was quoting some movie thing, some I do not get it because I have no touch of all this. He quoted some movie name. I don't even remember what he quoted. Yeah, I don't know this movie. We don't watch movies. So I said, oh, this is very difficult. How can you stay without movie watching? That's why I don't want to follow all these things. I said, see, you need a movie to get away from the absolute chaos in your life. Miserable condition of your life. You just want to forget it for a while by watching a movie. How I am able to stay without watching a movie is because I'm not interested in the movie. Not interested. Because I have much more interesting thing to do than your movie. It's not by abstinence that we are following these rules, but with a higher taste. Rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. So you are running after small, small happiness. I'm going to give you much bigger. You read this book, you will get something much higher. You think that, oh, we don't do this, therefore it is very difficult. Don't see what I am not doing. Try to see what I am doing, which is the actual thing that gives me strength to stay away from these things which are not actually required and which, moreover, are a distraction for our real existence. So, I always say you need a weekend. You need a weekend for unplugging yourself from the work life. We don't need a weekend. We don't want a weekend. We don't want a break from our happiness. Why do we want a break from our happiness? You need a break because you are in distress. Therefore, you need a break. We don't want a break. No. So that is our position. So you just ask them to read some books first. Never mind if they cannot follow anything. Just read first. Eventually, they will come to the point where they will get the taste for it, and then they will be wanting to do it. We all started. Who came out of the mother's womb determined? I'm going to be a solid, you know, you know. I'll take solid vows, and whole life I'll just, unless you're Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He said, I don't want to eat a mango. That is different case. We're talking about ordinary people. Came out of the mother's womb determined that he's going to go back to the spiritual world. Nobody came out like that. we gained this in the association of devotees. At one point, you were also not determined. You were also not doing all these things. But once you read the books, once you got convinced, when you got devotee association, then you got convinced, and then you were also doing it. So same process. Everybody goes through the same process. Everybody is in a different stage of their evolution of consciousness. So those who are ready, they will take to it. Just because people are not taking to it does not mean I lower my standards so that people will be attracted to lower standards and then they will come. Then instead of them coming, I will go there. So Prabhupada said preaching means not to compromise our standard to meet their standards, but convince them to take up our standard. So that is what preaching is all about. So Prabhupada, he never lowered his standard, but he reached out to them. How did he reach out? He did not impose any rules first. He gave them prasadam like anything. Bellies were filled first. And then they liked him very much. And then they also came to help. And, they felt, he's very nicely, selflessly doing it. And, let me. Then they learned a lot of things from him and, his conduct and everything. They never saw the kind of example. And that's how, they became devotees. So, for every abstinence that they see in us, oh, we don't watch movies, you tell them what we actually watch. We have stories that are unthinkable in modern movies. Tell them like that. We are interested. What is this Harry Potter, Ant-Man, Spider-Man, and Superman and useless man? We don't want these things. We are into Krishna. His activities are unparalleled, and these are real. Those are fictitious. So that's what we are interested in. We have stories that movies cannot make. All these movies fade in comparison to the stories I am reading. Tell them like that. This is why I don't watch movies, because those stories are all lackluster. I have better stories. Just like Sanatana Goswami, he was chanting and chanting. Lord Shiva, this man, he was a great devotee of Shiva, and he was praying to Shiva, please make me rich. Then Shiva came and then told him, you go to the Vrindavan, go meet Sanatana Goswami, and he has one Chintamani stone, and you take that, you touch anything, any metal, you will become gold and you will become very rich. Then he went far, he went to Vrindavan and asked around where is Sanatana. Oh, Sanatana Goswami, very famous. And then he went to see him. Then he saw Sanatana Goswami was chanting in his bhajan kutir, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Then he said, Swamiji, so Lord Shiva came into my dream and said that you have a great Chintamani. Do you have it? Is it real? Yes, yes, I do have. Where is it? I want it. Yeah, it is there outside. There's some garbage. In that heap of garbage, it is there somewhere. You go and search and pick up and go. You can take it. Then he searched in the garbage. Oh, got it. Is this the one? Yes, yes. Okay, okay. Thank you, thank you. Ran as fast as he could. Yeah, Chintamani, Chintamani. Halfway across. Hey, wait. What? If this was in the garbage, something else he has. Ran back. So, Swamiji, if this is in the garbage, that means you must be having something much better. He said, yeah, of course. What did you think? Oh, but then why didn't you tell me? You did not ask for it. Okay, okay, I want that. Okay, then you have to throw the stone in the river. Okay, throw in the stone. Okay, here, Tulsi Mala. Hare Krishna, chant Hare Krishna. But actually, it sounds like, "Arey, yaar, I should have had that Chintamani only. What is this Tulsi Mala?" But ye prasade pure sarva asha. all Everything will be, all desires will be fulfilled by the grace of Krishna. Dhruv Maharaj is the prime example. So encourage them like that. Always focus on the higher thing, not on the things that you are avoiding in the material world, but what is the replacement for that you have, which is the attractive feature of Krishna consciousness, and advertise that aspect and get them out of it. Just like Prabhupada, devotees, he said no intoxication, no caffeine, no chocolate, nothing. Then, some devotees, they were eating some chocolate, and at the end of the street, Prabhupada was taking a walk, he saw them eating some chocolate. Then he said, of course, no chocolate. There was one, this is another story where, this boy, he came back, um, maybe he's 20 years old or something like that. So he came back to Prabhupada's room and, like bowed down, and one chocolate fell out of his shirt pocket and fell on the ground, and Prabhupada saw that. What would you do? What would you do? He was like, sorry, Prabhupada. Then Prabhupada asked, what do you like about the chocolate? No, I like the sweet taste. Okay. Then Prabhupada went into the kitchen and then made a kheer. So nice. Thick kheer, like. Then he gave it to this boy and took it, and then that's it. Gave up chocolate. So Prabhupada, saved him from that taste. Instead of just asking him, no, you cannot eat, he gave him kheer. So in this way, he got the higher taste. So here we have everything. Krishna consciousness has everything. We have better than chocolate things. Yeah. So in that way, Prabhupada attracted them by the attractive features of yena tena prakarena manah Krishna niveshayet. Sarva-vidhi nishedhasya etayor eva kinkaraḥ. All the rules and regulations can come later. The real thing, the main thing is yena tena prakarena. Tasmat kenapyupayena manah Krishna niveshayet. Somehow or other, get him attached to Krishna or any aspect of Krishna consciousness. Whether it be prasadam, whether it be philosophy, whether it be stories, whether it be music. Instead of hearing all the pop song useless rubbish lyrics, Hare Krishna, Vaishnava bhajans, beautiful songs. So we can get immersed in that. We are not against music. Yeah, we are absolutely for it. Our movement is based on music, Sankirtan Yajna. So we are into it. We are into dancing. We are into discussing high philosophy. And philosophy not boring like, armchair, some old man with the spectacles like that. No, we are talking about absolute, very practical, pragmatic, and highly elevated philosophy, and scientific at the same time. Very appealing to even the youthful people. So it's everything very scientific. We have exercise, we have everything. Our kirtan dancing is exercise in itself. Go out book distribution, walk around and talk to people. Exercise in itself. Play mridanga, exercise in itself. We have everything. We have everything. We don't need anything else. So in that way, you can explain. Is that answered? That question, Vrindavaneshwari Mataji? So this is Divya Krishna Mataji. Prabhuji, do we need to counteract scientists and technologists when we encounter them, or only when they argue we must reveal this conviction that they are like kids playing with toys? No. We call them. Call them. Hello, Albert Einstein. You're a kid. Tell them on their face. Of course, we have to prove it. Scientists are after proof. So we'll prove it that they're children, as good as boys. We knock on their door and tell them, hey, you're a kid, grow up. Grow up, man. Take this Bhagavad-gītā, grow up. So that's what we should do. So, I mean, that verse is there, no? Dante निधाय त्रिणकं पदयोर्निपत्य कृत्वा च काकशतुमहं ब्रवीमि हे साधव सकलमेव विहाय दूरात् चैतन्यचन्द्र कुरुते चैतन्यचन्द्रचरणे कुरुतानुरागम्. So, yeah, humbly approach him. Oh, you are great, this and that, this and that. Give up your rubbish and take to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Shelter. So we'll reach out to, oh, you're a great scientist, what an intelligent person you are, the most intelligent person. I think you missed something very important in your life, and therefore you became a fool. Here is Bhagavad-gītā, become intelligent actually. The one of our congregation members, the son, he went to, big university and is learning artificial intelligence. So I asked, where is your son? Oh, the mother said, oh, he's studying in this university, big university, world reputed. So Cambridge University. Oh, okay. And he got by Krishna's mercy, he got free seat. Krishna's mercy. Okay. So what is he studying? Artificial intelligence. So I said, hopefully he doesn't lose his real intelligence. Huh? Ask him to become Krishna conscious. Ask him to get some real intelligence. Is he chanting or not? No. So please ask him to chant. Otherwise there's no intelligence there. Nasti buddhirayuktasya nachayuktasya bhavana. 2.66. Nasti buddhirayuktasya. Those who are not connected with Krishna and Krishna consciousness, no buddhi, no intelligence. Or artificial and real, nothing is there. So, this is all on Krishna's mercy. Krishna's mercy means to understand Krishna and to be his devotee. In fact, Prabhupada, what did he do? He purposefully talked about evolution theory. Who asked him about Darwin? Darwin did not come and ask him, is my thesis okay? I'm okay? He did not ask. He died. Prabhupada attacked him. Is he journeyed to other planets? They did not go into the moon. Who asked him? Nobody asked him. But he went and knocked on the door, challenged them. Anytime he sees a scientist, he will smash them. Or nonsense sciences. So in this way. So of course we have to convince them. And the whole point is not just to defeat them and yes, I knocked him out. No, that's not the idea. Try to save him from his stupidity. And make him a devotee. That's the whole point. If they don't become, they smash them through and through. Defeat him so that everybody else can see that he is defeated. Although he may not accept he is defeated, everybody else can see. That is our point. Even though Charles Darwin will never become a devotee, he already died, he went somewhere. But Prabhupada attacked him so that others can see what is the defect. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for the great help, because here it is very difficult to deal with such people. All they do is start finding faults only. You also find faults. What do you have in your life? Do you know who you are? You don't know who you are. Do you know where you're going after that? You don't know. You think there is nothing. Are you sure there is nothing? Are you sure? They are saying, oh, who has gone, who has come, who has died and again came back. There are people who came back in the next life. What about those people who remembered their past life? What about them? Are they nothing? And how is it true? How come they're telling everything right? Have you thought about it? And if there is only one life, prove it to me that there is only one life. Why there is so much variety? Variety means what? Why is somebody born rich and somebody born poor? Why is somebody born human being, somebody an animal? That means something else is governing. Just by chance, just by accident. Accident, that means you don't know, you're a fool. You think everything is going by accident in such an orderly way. Orderly accident. Is that? That's not an accident. How it is happening, we must know. So there is reason why one born rich, one born poor, because of his past life, karma. If you take out the factor of karma, there is no logic in this world. Everybody just everything is just, there is no justice system. There is no nothing. There's just why these things happen. So there is a reason. So here is an all-encompassing explanation for everything. Why don't they accept it? So that's the way we have to prove them wrong. See, you're saying they find faults, but that is what preaching is all about. Prabhupada said, if they're accepting, then where is the preaching? Preaching is when they don't accept and when we have to convince them. They are not convinced, and then we have to convince them. So that is where preaching comes. So anyway, I think you are quite intelligent. You can preach. So I hope that helped a bit. Anything else? If that is all, we will end it here. Thank you very much. Bhagavad-gītā ki jai. Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.